October 10th, 2011, Single Family Design Board. Kathleen, if you could call roll, please.
Chair Geisler.
Here.
Denise Woolery.
Here.
Bernie Brightside. Here. Ryan Miller.
Here.
Ned Sweeney.
Here.
Jim Finley.
Here.
We have quorum.
Wow, this is the first time in a while we've all been here, so it's good, nice. At this point, I'd like to open up public comment. Any member of the public may address the Single Family Design Board for up to 2 minutes on any subject that is within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled for discussion on today's agenda. Not seeing anybody jump up, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for approval of the minutes for the Single Family Design Board for September 26th, 2011. Do I have a motion for approval of those minutes? Bernie first, seconded by Jim. And let's go item per item quickly. Let me see here. So item number 1 was 227 La Vista Grande. Is there any corrections or comments on those minutes? Item number 2 was 1724 Mira Vista Avenue. Any discussion on that item? 724. 724? 1724, right? Okay. Item number 3, 917 Paseo Farello. Comments? Okay. Number 4, 524 East Mitchell-Torrena Street. Number 5, 521 Santa Barbara Street. Number 6, and I'm dependent upon you guys because that's my project. I can't look at it. Okay. Number 7, 638 Sutton Avenue. And number 8, 1131 Los Pueblos Road. I had a question on that one under the motion number 5. It says provide a landscape plan. And I think there was some discussion during that meeting. The question, I think, is to what level or to there was a modifications to the front, to the side, but did we need a full landscape plan on that project? It was a renovation. Do you remember that one, Denise? It was, go ahead.
That was the project where they were also removing portion of an existing driveway, so maybe it was in reference to just the removal of the existing hardscape.
Yeah, I think that's what it was that we wanted to see what was going on instead of the paving.
So the area,
we could reword that, I suppose, to say provide a landscape plan for the area of renovation.
okay. Any other comments on that item? Okay, so the 9th item was 652 East Valerio Street. Okay. Any comments other than the projects? No? So let's take a vote on the minutes. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstain. I need to abstain from item number 6. Okay. So the motion carries. Let's move to the consent calendar for October 3rd, 2011. May I have a motion for approval of the calendar?
I'll make that motion.
First by Denise, second by Jim. And Michelle, if you could read that calendar, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The consent agenda for Monday, October 3rd, 2011. Item A, 352 El Cielito Road, is granted final approval as submitted of the review after final. Item B, 227 La Vista Grande, is granted final approval as submitted. Item C, 524 East Mitchell-Torrena Street, was granted final approval as submitted. Item D, 1519 Shoreline Drive, was granted final approval as submitted. And item E, 1721 Los Canoas Road, was granted project design approval and final approval as submitted with the NPO findings. And the items were reviewed by Brian Miller and Fred Sweeney.
All right, thank you. Denise, did you second the motion? No.
I first did the motion, but I have to probably rescind that because I wasn't here, and does it matter?
You can still,
Okay.
okay. Okay, so does everybody knows the calendar that was just written, or this just read off? Is there any comments on any of those items? Okay, let's take a vote for approval of the calendar. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed and abstain?
Abstain me.
Abstain Denise. Okay, thank you. And we'll move to today's consent calendar for October 10th, 2011. I need a motion for approval of the calendar.
Make the motion.
Jim first, and Brian second. And Michelle, if you could read that, please.
Yes, the consent agenda for today, Monday, October 10th, 2011. Item A, 135 Murata Lane, is granted project design approval and final approval with conditions. Item B, 912 Media Road, was referred to full board to the October 24th, 2011 agenda. Item C, 356 LC Lido Road, is granted project design approval and final approval as submitted. Item D, 1624 Olive Street, was granted project design approval and final approval as submitted. And item E, 300 Las Alturas Road, was continued indefinitely. Items were reviewed by Jim Zimmerman and Denise Woolery.
Thank you.
Is there a item on there for Village or Sophie Lane?
That's on today's agenda.
What's that?
That's on today's agenda.
Oh, okay, I thought that's what you're reading.
That was for the consent calendar for today.
My mistake.
Okay. Do we need to have any discussion about item B as to why it was continued, or we'll talk about that next when it's actually here? So Denise and Jim, I think.
Yeah, the deck is within 15 feet of the property line.
Okay.
And we'd asked them to take pictures last time, and from the deck, which is 6 feet above grade,
It's on.
it doesn't give the neighbors privacy in the backyard. So they didn't take our suggestions, so we said, well, you can come before the full board, and see what they think.
Okay. So it's scheduled for the next hearing?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And everyone else was good. So let's take a vote for approval of the calendar. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed and abstain. I need to abstain from item number C, or letter C. And we'll move to announcements. And Michelle, if you have any staff announcements? Or Jaime?
Chair, I just wanted to announce to the board and to the public that we are still looking for a landscape architect for the sport. We have the recruitment open now, and no one has applied for that vacancy, so keep your eyes open or ears open about potential persons that would want to be joining this board, or else we're going to be down one person. I've also talked about trying to develop a backup system because all the boards are actually looking for another landscape architect. I guess they're harder to find. And I know Denise was involved with some conversations with other board architects, or landscape architects, and trying to develop a backup system when one landscape architect has a proposal before the board to have another board member as a courtesy come in and help the other board make comments on those landscape plans. And we're still working that out. We may have to implement that because we may not have another landscape architect for use on our boards as a backup.
Okay. Just clarification, does this person have to be a licensed architect, landscape architect?
In this single-family design board, yes.
Okay.
that is the provision to have at least one landscape architect, and another landscape professional could be utilized on other boards if they have already a landscape architect. But we do want to have at least one on each board.
All right, thank you.
And the recruitment closes a week from today, so we're still looking.
Okay. Any other announcements? We have to talk about appeals at all? Okay.
Yeah, board members, we'd like to find a representative for an appeal coming up for 1359 Santa Teresita and 1383 Santa Teresita. That was a project that was reviewed and approved previously by the board and has been appealed. And the council date is next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. So if we can have somebody volunteer to attend that hearing.
What time is it here?
2:30. That's a slope driveway damage repair.
Okay.
Wasn't that complicated. It was just a question of whether it's an appropriate improvement on the lot. So there's been a parcel in the county.
And it's for a week from tomorrow.
Yes, on the 18th.
Just a question, there's another appeal that I know I volunteered to be part of. Is it for that same date? That's for tomorrow.
Grand and Jimeno, that's for tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. So this is the 18th.
So, Mr. Chair, that's something
The one for Santa Teresita. Yes.
I don't recall whether I was here on that one or not. If I was, I probably could attend. I just don't remember it.
Yeah, it would have been the last 2 months you've been out since January.
That's the one about Foothill Road.
Yes.
There was an access drive or something?
Yes, right. I recall, yes.
Okay,
No,
so that's a volun.
I'd be happy to do that. On the 18th?
Yes.
What time, more or less?
It's the second item up, and we're anticipating about 2:30 to 2:45.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Okay.
Is that all the announcements?
All right.
Yes.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
There was also discussion last week about our schedule for the Thanksgiving weekend, if you remember. And I don't know if some of the board members haven't put in their schedule yet, whether or not that yes.
So far, you are the only person that has announced that they will not be here. So we need to determine whether or not you guys are going to be on vacation or available for that meeting the Monday prior to Thanksgiving week. And if we have a quorum, we will hold a meeting. If we don't have a quorum, we will postpone the meeting.
I will be here.
Okay, so it looks like we're going to have quorum. Yeah, just me. Okay. Okay, so there's 4 yeses and a later. Okay, thank you. So we're done with item D, and item E is subcommittee reports, and at this point I don't believe we have any subcommittees. So we can move to the item number 1 on the agenda, which is 1303 Farello Road, Lot 28. Is the applicant here for that? Everybody has one. So we're taking a little... I don't see the applicant here for that either at the moment. We'll take a quick little break. Let's take a 5 or 10 minute break and wait, see if the applicant shows up in the next couple minutes. 1303 Farello Road, Lot 28. Applicant is here. If you could introduce yourself.
My name is Kevin Goodwin.
Welcome. And Denise, do you have the minutes from the prior meeting? We'll read those prior to your presentation.
We were continued indefinitely with the full board with the following comments. Revise the grading plan and bring into accordance with the previously approved plan for the top of the slope originally approved by the Architectural Board of Review. Update the current landscape plan with further detailing at the slope and provide a proposed grading contour plan. It is recommended to learn. Okay. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Your presentation, sir.
Sure. We have moved the top of slope back to where the original top of slope was as per the request. I brought this in to the city staff to make sure that we've complied with all the recommendations, which we feel we have done so. So prior to submitting it and presenting it here, it has been reviewed by staff. We've updated the landscaping as per question, updated the slope areas as requested as well, showing cross sections in 3 different areas to give a complete account of where and how the slope will look. And then, in accordance with that, we have provided the civil engineering docs, which are a complete new set of engineering calculations to show how those changes will be implemented. And of course, this will be reviewed by building staff. And the cross sections and everything here are consistent with the landscaping plans, which are probably more pertinent.
All right. Anything else for your presentation?
No, sir. I complied with all the requests and hope it's satisfactory.
Thank you very much. Is there staff comments on this item? Okay, so if not, we'll move to public comment. I have 2 speaker slips. One is Jeff Venin.
Who is not here? Who is not here?
Okay, so we'll set it aside for a sec. And then Miranek Field?
Miranda Field.
Miranda. If you could have a seat right here, and we'll turn on the mic, and you have up to 2 minutes to speak on the project.
Could I first ask for clarification? My understanding from the notification that we received was that a variance was, or it's not called a variance, an exception was still being requested to increase the size of the pad. And
Okay,
no,
we'll ask that question to staff. Is there a modification being requested as part of this submittal? No. Okay. Let me ask another quick question. Staff has reviewed this set of plans, and it basically adheres to all the prior design that was approved. That's the main question. Okay.
Then I'll withdraw my comments. Could I leave a letter to have on file?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Jeff is not here, so we'll close public comment at this point and bring it back to the board for their questions. My biggest question, Michelle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to acknowledge for the record that we did receive a letter from Diana Miller, who was just concerned with this item. She wanted to advise the board. She objects to any increase in the building size or increase in the amount of grading, cut and fill. And if it's a substantial change, she would request a new design review process.
Okay. And that was emailed to all of the board members, if I know?
Yes, this was emailed to everybody prior to the meeting.
All right. So I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for their questions.
Mr. Chair, Michael?
Yes, Fred?
My question, so based on the inquiry from the adjacent neighbors, based on the staff's review, basically what I think I just heard you say is the originally approved footprint is the same that's shown on this drawing. So there's been no change to the size of the footprint of the house. And then the second part of that question is, based on this submission today, it looks like a cut and fill at 0. And was that what it was originally approved? I guess that's my question.
Do you understand the
Yes.
question? Okay.
Yes and yes. There's no change to anything. We had made a proposal originally, a little bit ago, to change this grading area, and we have basically put it back to where it originally was, which brings it to net sum 0.
The previously approved plan.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes,
I was
Jim?
wondering about the neighbor here. I know that he was very concerned at the last meeting. Has he seen the plans, or have you reviewed those with him? The property owner of this area?
This is all part of this parcel, so there's really there is a neighbor here on this side of this property line, and she's the neighbor up here at this part of the property line.
Jim, if you remember, there was some concern there, but especially about this path, that this applicant thought the property line was right on that path. And then after they looked at sort of the survey and aerial shots, they realized this path was well off of their property. So I think that concern went away. Okay. Any other questions?
I have.
Yes, Fred.
I have an additional question. On the landscape plan that's shown on, I guess, the second sheet, there's not a sheet number on here, it talks about ceanothus being the material to be planted. Is that reflective of this crosshatching? Is that the area that's going to be planted?
Yes, sir.
And then my question to my colleague on the panel, who's our landscape architect, at 4 feet on center, is that a sufficient spacing to get this thing to grow out fairly quickly?
Yes, actually, that's very close spacing for that particular plant. It spreads to about 6 to 8 feet. So it'll be pretty tightly knit.
Any other questions? If not, let's move to comments. From my perspective, it looks like the applicant has done everything that the board has asked them to do, and they've even provided the landscape plan, which was more, I think, than what we reviewed last time. So, anybody else have comments?
I don't see any major impact on design issues, so yeah, I approve it.
Okay. Anybody? If not, let's get a motion going. Somebody.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the motion that we, for approval as submitted.
So, Michelle, do we have to make a whole another NPO project design? Or?
I would make the NPO findings just as it relates to the grading, but as now it looks like they're significantly less grading, just
Yeah.
acknowledge that.
Okay, NPO findings based on significantly less grading and appropriate plant material to cover the slope and appropriate erosion control methods.
That's a good question. We have erosion control of the plan?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is there a second to that motion? Brian, second. Any more discussion? Bernie?
In general, for us as a board, when we have a project that was approved in 2007, and I know we can't do anything or change anything about it, but since we're voting the whole project, wouldn't it make sense for us to get to see it, the plan of what we're approving? Because now we're not only approving the grading, but the whole thing is as it is. Or maybe I'm just the only one that doesn't remember it, but...
From memory, I think this project was approved through a different board, the House portion of it.
I believe it was at
The whole
ABR.
2007, we
ABR.
Yeah. So the only thing that this plan is proposing is actually the grading component.
I understand.
So these plans actually show all of the grading issues that are being asked to provide.
The approval on the house is still valid. This is a review after final just for grading alterations.
I understand the approval is still valid. I'm just saying I don't know what the project looks like, so it's hard to approve the grading plan. Okay.
Okay, we were only asked to review the grading plan. Okay. Okay, so let's take a vote on approval or on the motion, I'm sorry. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed and abstained.
And I'll abstain.
One abstention. So the motion carries. I'm sorry? Brian. So we had a first, second, we discussed, we voted, it's approved, and I'll announce a 10-day appeal period on that motion. All right, congratulations. So we're back on schedule. So item number 2 is 1020 Placido Avenue. This is an in-progress review for change in proposed exterior materials. We, I believe, have minutes from a prior meeting, so we're going to get those and read those prior to the applicant's presentation. And we'll have drawings. All right. If we could get your name just for the record right now.
Christine Prone, architect for the project.
Welcome. And if, Denise, if you could read the minutes from the prior hearing.
Okay. Comment number 1 was provide a covered porch element to the front at the front porch, and 2, provide additional architectural and landscape details.
All right. Thank you. And your presentation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Board. We haven't gone on to show yet. We're still in the dark process, but a couple of two kind of areas of items changed that we thought worth you guys taking a look at before we go on to show. And one you'll see on the front. Do we have the pictures from the prior? We weren't going to make any exterior changes to the building at all, and it was a totally shingled building. On its way to some kind of design, but never quite getting there. And what happened was, with the change of use, we do have to turn this into a 1-hour out exterior. So we thought, well, great, this is a chance to kind of give a little bit more identity to the design of the building. We can't make any structural or major changes to it, but we thought we could change the skin and give it some more attractiveness. And the concept was to just make it a carriage house. It is off of a back alley, so it should be kind of a rusticated, not a big fancy house. So it felt right to make it look like it had been the old carriage house of a main building that had long been gone. So it's a change here to the exterior with an upgraded garage door, a plaster base, a skirted belly band. we will use the wood shingles on the top and kind of a little bit more attractive dormer window. Held high, we do have some issues with the neighbors across the street wanting to make sure we don't have any visibility from the tenants here. And a couple more details. So there's that change to the exterior, and that has elevations on a page inboard there, A04, I think. And the other, especially with these kind of impending changes to ADA and accessibility, just talking with the building department, we are working, before we just had a deck and a set of stairs, and they really wanted to see this added ramp so that there's full accessibility into the backyard, not just from a set of stairs. So that's kind of the major change off the back. This is all behind fence lines and not visible to the public, but that's kind of what has happened back here. And we were able to, the trash and recycling had been located up front, and couldn't do that because, of course, we crossed behind a parked car. You're not allowed to do that. So we kind of moved it around, and in the end decided to just put it back here behind what will be a taller fence. And there's on-site management that will take care of this with the trash department to bring it out. So it seemed like a better location, completely out of sight. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. It's really this change to the ramp and the deck in the back for accessibility, and the changes to the, I think the improvements to the exterior. It's still the same windows, some changes in doors. Again, some were not wide enough for our ADA, so we've gone ahead and shown those properly as 3-0 doors. And I think that is it.
All right, thank you. Staff, is there any comments on this project? Okay, so I'll open up public comment. I don't have any speaker slips. I don't see anybody jumping up out in the audience, so we have nothing in the file. So we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for their questions. Christine, you mentioned a 1-hour assembly. Is this going to be a fire-treated?
No, we don't have to do that because it's not like high fire.
Uh-huh.
It's just we just need to pull off what's there, put on the gyp board, the 5/8 Type X gyp board, to create the 1-hour sandwich, and we can put shingles on top.
Okay.
So once we pulled everything off, that's when we thought, great, we'll just improve
So
it.
you're not subject to those high fire
No,
restrictions,
nothing
okay?
like that. It's just the assembly has to create a 1-hour envelope.
All right. Additional questions?
So, just to follow up on that, so the shingles will be new shingles?
New shingles, but wood. We just decided we
Okay.
really just loved that wood, stained wood shingle seemed important to us.
And this band that you're putting around the bottom here,
Yes, thickles.
that's stucco, or is that wood, or did I miss something?
It's a skirt. I should have taken a picture of it. You see them kind of on like Victorians. They flare out the bottom a little bit with the shingle, and then the plaster comes up and meets it. And you can see it. I haven't totally worked out the detail, but I saw one nearby my office that had a little dental pattern around it. So again, I want to keep this very simple, not ornate. It's the bathhouse, but just a little bit of detailing on it.
And this is, as I read the application, this is going to be a congregate care facility?
Yes, it's going to be a detox center for up to 12.
Oh, okay. So this has no
It's
issues
not.
with ambulatory or non-ambulatory residents?
No, we are providing for that on the ground floor, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. Thank you.
Additional questions from board? Denise?
Yes, we had also mentioned something about landscaping here, and landscape details.
We just hadn't gotten there yet. We assumed that would come when we do go through the staff hearing officer.
Oh, well, here you do have
We
a
do
plant
have it.
schedule, yes. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? If not, we'll move to comments. How about some just general comments on some of the changes that have occurred since the last meeting, since we basically had positive comments last time? Anybody have any concern at all about this little weather vane?
I think it gives a nice feeling and quality architecture, and it fits in the neighborhood with the new look, with the two different materials.
Good comment.
I agree. I think you did a very good job of adding a little charm and interest to the structure. I think it's nice.
And Brian, you mentioned something about the porch, the overhang
Oh,
at
and
the
that
front
was
door.
added, yes.
So
right.
you're okay with that solution?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That was a good comment.
Any additional comments?
The shed roof over the garage doors, how is that constructed? Is that
This little dormer, or, oh, this is just, it's not a shed, it's boards laid flat, set into the plaster. So it'll just be like a frame.
Well, you know what you might do is, frame that, and then maybe have small corbels at the ends to hold it up. I think that,
It's set into the plaster. It's just a 2x set into plaster. It's not out proud of the,
It's just an engaged piece of wood
Yeah.
right there.
oh, I see.
I mean,
So
I will
there's
be-
no
yeah.
overhang.
No, it's to replicate the idea of like the wood framing of the
Okay.
building showing through. And I'll be cautious, of course, to make sure that, when you look up, you see wood, not suddenly plaster.
Okay. Any comments, Fred? No. Okay. Bernie, you kind of like the look of it, sounds like? Denise, everybody's shaking their head. So staff, we can't make an approval. We're still going through some approval. So what I'd be looking for is a motion basically giving positive feedback. We have not really any negative comments that came out of this review.
And I'm assuming when you come back, you'll give us some details
Yeah.
and some sections through
Oh,
these little
yeah.
overhangs and so forth. So I would, do we have to make the motion, or what's the
It's just a comment, yeah.
comment?
motion.
Okay. In progress comments, positive reviews. Everyone appears to like the shingles and the general design approach, and the approach to the fence and the deck and the porch overhang that was asked to be reviewed last time. And we would look forward to seeing the details and sections through some of the architectural elements that have been added to the exterior.
All right.
And Mr. Chair?
Is that a second?
Second, and under comments also, I don't remember, but could we hear from the neighbors as to how they feel that this enhances or fits into their neighborhood, or is that not our purview?
Well, we can't require it. I mean, it's been noticed twice.
And it'll be noticed for the staff hearing officer.
I can say, it's run by the CATA, Council on Alcoholism and I can never quite and drug abuse. Thank you, and the Housing Authority, and they've done a lot of outreach in the neighborhood. So I have no doubt they'll be doing more and showing the drawings.
For our board, could we just get some of their or could you, when you come back, could we ask her to bring us some of their positive commentary, or?
We could ask the applicant to see if they could provide that. I don't know if we would make it a requirement, but if that would be helpful to have, sure.
But I thought I heard you just say that you have talked to the neighbor directly across the alleyway, and they were concerned about the window, and that's why you've kind of redesigned it the way you have.
There has been. I didn't talk with them. The Housing Authority talked with them at one of the they had neighborhood meetings about this early on. Yeah, so neighbors came over, saw what was going to happen because of its use, and that was the one comment, was to see what we could do to get this window high or shield it somehow so that the neighbor across the street felt private.
And so those comments are part of the other part of the process of getting this project approved.
Correct.
So the public's had a lot of opportunity to comment.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so there was a first, a second, and additional comments. I would like to tag on to Fred's motion about a color board, details,
yeah.
cut sheet for lighting, all of the requirements for a final approval.
And could we maybe see a sample of the shingle material or the piece that's going along the outside?
Sure. Any additional comments regarding the motion? Michelle?
I just wanted to clarify, that was continued indefinitely the staff hearing officer. Was that to return to full board or consent?
Fred, it's up to you. but,
Given the comments, I think that you go to consent.
and alls I would say is if the project doesn't really change from what we see, if there's changes, then we might want to have some input on that.
Certainly do.
Okay. Everybody understand the motion? So we'll vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Good luck. So we're a couple minutes early still,
So they went off to get their permits.
and the applicant has stepped out. They'll be back at 4 o'clock. I think we'll take a recess till 4 o'clock. Thank you.
I just sent her a text saying they ran early.
Okay. I'd like to begin again the October 10th, 2011 Single Family Design Board, item number 3, 276 Schulte Lane, and this is a new item on the agenda, so let me read the description. This is a proposal to repair and stabilize an area of slope failure, construct new drainage facilities, and repair a portion of the existing paved driveway serving the existing residence. Proposed grading includes 460 cubic yards of cut and 610 cubic yards of fill. Approximately 15 ornamental trees are proposed to be removed. A single-family residence and carport currently exist on the project site. No new floor area is proposed. The project site is located on an approximately 3.25-acre site in the Hillside Design District. This project requires NPO and grading findings. Also requires compliance with a Tier 2 stormwater management program. If you could introduce yourself.
My name's Ron Rohr. I'm Ron Rohr with Flowers & Associates. We're the civil engineers for the project. The plans that we have prepared are in front of you. This is
Candace Ilgen, and I'm a property owner with my husband, John Ilgen.
Welcome.
And I'm Kathleen Blankenship, and I have been assisting as an agent, helping them facilitate through going through the steps to get to this point today.
Thank you. Welcome. If you could do your presentation, we read the agenda, but if you could just, in detail, just show us what you're proposing.
basically, as the description says, this is a slope failure mitigation. And if you turn to sheet C1, the plan sheet, pretty much gives us a good indication of what's going on here. There's about 1,500 square feet of the slope that failed, about 120 by 140. Is my math correct, or am I 15,000? I'm sorry. And so this slide, when it went, it took out an existing stone retaining wall at the top of the slope and a portion of the existing driveway and motor court. The failure happened, last February, was it?
End of March.
End of March of this year. And of course, coming into raining season, we'd like to get this done, and we have submitted plans of building and safety and in the process of their approval, which is imminent. There's no modification to the building. It's basically repair of the motor court, the driveway, and the slope, and it's going to be repaired using a bench cut. We have a geotechnical engineer and a engineering geologist on board. That's Earth Systems from Southern California, and they have approved and the plans, and we are going to use GeoWeb on the top end of the slope. We're putting in drainage facilities to as much as possible prevent further failures, because a lot of this, the failure was due to saturation of the soils due to drainage onto the slope. We can look at C2, and you can see some sections there which might help to see how we're going to regrade this slope, particularly section AA. That's specifically showing us a key and bench, which is typical of a slope of this size. It'll be done under the direction of the soils engineer. And the benefit of doing this, and at the top end of the slope, we'll be putting in what's called GeoWeb to allow us to steepen up the slope to about a 1.25 to 1, 1.3 to 1 approximately. That will preclude us having to rebuild the retaining wall at the top of the slope, which will make for a safer driveway as well. And we will control the drainage by means of collection of the stormwater in curb and gutter, and then into catch basins, into a storm drain system, take it down to the bottom of the slope into an existing storm drain catch basin at the bottom of the slope.
All right. Anything else for your presentation? No? Okay. Staff, any comments on this project?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. I just wanted to let you guys know that, as the applicant has stated, they have already submitted for the building permit, and we're allowed to do so based on the emergency circumstance, but it is also pending your approval that they can proceed with that.
All right, thank you. And we are past, well, we're not quite at 4:10. I might reserve public comment to 4:10 in case anybody shows up, but we'll go through the board with their questions. I have a question, and I quickly looked through the plans. Is there any landscape proposal for what you're doing?
Yes, sir. The in every area except where the geogrid is going to go. First of all, we're going to put hydroseed down. We're going to put in buffers because we are going into rainy season. But we are going to replant the orchard that has to be that was damaged and has to subsequently be removed. All of the orchard is going to be replanted through that. It was citrus and avocado, and then above that, where the geogrid is in place and we can't put trees, we're going to put ground cover down, plus there is the possibility of installing solar panels over that area as well.
Is there a plan that shows that?
No, sir, we don't. We didn't know we needed that at this point.
Just a question. Any additional questions?
Yes.
Yes, Bernie.
On the same orchard, so is the orchard irrigated, and is that part of this?
This failure was caused by This failure was caused by the
I think-
failure of the edge of the wall, the decorative wall that existed at the end of the carport, which caused the edge of the carport to sag. Water got into the carport, it got into the hill. The replacement irrigation is going to be surface drip, just the small surface lines. There's no underground irrigation to this area.
Any additional questions from the board?
So,
Yes, sir.
if I read this correctly, I went out there this morning and tried to see the extent without driving up their driveway on Schulte Lane. So, in order to avoid having to put another retaining wall back in, what I understand, and I think it's in section F, that's where I saw it. On sheet CD1. It's sheet CD1. That 5-foot minimum off from that curb, that's basically off the top, right?
That has been revised to 2.5 feet now.
Okay, so this drawing is not quite accurate.
We, working with the building department, we revised that to 2.5 feet, but to answer your question, the stability of that parking lot is by use of the geogrid.
If you could get a little closer to the mic, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. By use of the geogrid at the top of the slope gives us more flexibility with the amount of ground we can establish the parking lot and the motor court on.
Okay. And then it was also my understanding, just based on the verbal comment about replanting, that top half of that would not be planted in large plants, but ground cover. Is that what I understood?
Yes. With the implementation of the geogrid on the top half of the slope, because you can't put trees back down through geogrid, it would destroy its effectiveness and its structural integrity. So the top half is going to be used for some plantings. But initially, to get us through the first winter, we'll be using a fabric on the surface and hydromulching with natives.
So then I have a question to staff. If we choose as a board to request a planting plan, and I'm not calling it a landscape plan, I'm calling it a planting plan, because I certainly would be interested to see how the trees are being replaced and where this ground cover might go. But also knowing the time-sensitive nature of what they're trying to do here, what's the approval request process?
Well, generally speaking, that would be, if you were requiring it, we'd want that prior to final approval. But given the circumstance, I think we could grant them approval, and then you could ask them to come back maybe on consent and provide a landscaping plan while they're continuing or pursuing their building permit.
Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions?
Am I allowed to have one?
Maybe not. We'll ask. How about comments? General comments?
Well, I'll just follow them on after my question. I think the engineering plan that we see in front of us is probably acceptable. I'm not a civil engineer. That's why we hire them. But given my experience, it looks like it's doing the job it needs to do. But I would be very much interested to seeing some kind of planting plan at some point. Am I doing that? That would show us how the 15 mature trees are being replaced and what additional groundscape may be added to the site, so that the neighbors and the general neighborhood that looks across to the site or down into the site from upper portions of the canyon has some sense that the orchard would be restored, assuming that's what the applicant wants to do. They may not want to restore the orchard. I guess that's a question.
Thank you.
We were planning on actually putting back some citrus trees there.
So if you're doing that, it would just be nice to see how you're going to get that laid out.
Correct.
Wow.
Yes, Bernie.
Go ahead.
This is agricultural, basically, right?
Right.
So my
Exactly.
my impression is you're just going to replace what was lost, so it doesn't
Exactly.
really need to be scrutinized, because why would you go otherwise?
Right.
I mean, that's my feeling. I feel comfortable with the information I've got now, because this is not a aesthetic landscape. This is a agricultural landscape issue.
Correct.
So that's my only
And the
comment.
visibility from other parts of the canyon is, there is none for that effect.
So Denise, how are you feeling? You're the one
Yeah,
expert on the
well,
board
I
here.
agree with Brian actually on this because it is agricultural, and also because they've already mentioned that they do intend to hydroseed for this season, as well as have some kind of, did you say some kind of jute cover?
Fabric, yes.
Fabric cover, and then ground cover will be planted the following season. Is that, do I understand that correctly? So I guess not knowing what that ground cover may be, it has me a little curious, but it doesn't look like it's, well, if we could look at another plan to see what area that ground cover is going to be in, it would be this direction. wouldn't it?
Well, initially, just to get us through this season, because we're coming up here on the rainy season, we're going to hydromulch the whole
thing.
slope, because we want to get it stabilized as quickly as possible, because we're putting a lot of money into reestablishing this slope, and we don't want to jeopardize that. So that's called for in our erosion control plans at the back. We basically call for a native hydromulch seed mix. And I know. Is that something that is available through the city recommendations for, do you guys provide a recommendation for a
Seed mix.
seed mix that's, we don't even have to bother thinking about, we just do it?
There are seed mixes, through SNS seeds and
Right.
various native mixes, which in essence, you would even get shrub seeds in there, native shrubs, that could take and become your ground cover in the future. So you wouldn't have to necessarily come back and replant again.
That's what we'd like to do, this as simple as possible and be in conformance with
Then
current guidelines.
There are specific seed mixes that you can get for that.
Okay.
And they do list the percentage of what's in there. It's just, you have to contact SNS Seeds. Or
Well, as a request, as the property owner, we have gotten no insurance money whatsoever, and we're going into retirement with my husband, 67 years old. So at this point, anything that we can do to not have to come back and fight City Hall over and over and over again, et cetera, like we all know can happen. You know, it's just like, tell us what to do, we'll do it, okay? But let's not go through.
We'll get you through as fast as we can.
It's already $300,000. So, you know, let's...
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any
So
comments?
anything that we can do now, if you have to have a landscaping thing
Hold on.
now,
We'll
or-
get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
I think the GeoGrid system is an excellent way to stabilize the top of the slope without going to any retaining walls. I think putting citrus trees in, sparsely maybe, but I think this is an excellent solution. So,
thank you.
All right, Bernie, any additional comments?
And I know what you're saying because they call this an act of nature when this happens, and it happened to a lot of people, with the similar stuff.
Did it?
Yeah, with no insurance. So
Well, we had what we thought was good insurance, but nothing.
anyway, I was just wondering, so the driveway, it's just going to be repaired so that the driveway that we have, is this correct? It's just going to be repaired, this piece of it, it's not going to be widened?
Well, we'll be reestablishing some of this in here. We will not have the stone retaining wall here, which is quite a heavy item, especially when it got loaded down with a lot of wet soil. And there's been, because of several overlays in the pavement here, the pavement in that area is some 12 to 18 inches thick, so a lot more weight in there as well. So basically all that's coming out, and then we're reestablishing the slope. And we won't need, because we can use the GeoWeb, we can do the slope steeper at the top and not need any kind of retaining wall at all, which will help us to control the drainage, which is the major factor that we feel caused the failure in the first place. Because as the old stone wall separated from the pavement, over time it allowed seepage down in between the wall and the pavement, and that's what caused the saturation below the pavement.
Just to kind of follow up on Bernie's question, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Is the area of the driveway increasing in the proposed plan versus the...
No, no, it's less.
Okay.
The driveway itself stays the same. The motor court diminishes slightly in this area. We're taking some of what was the motor court out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any additional comments? Okay, I want to bring up public comment since we didn't really officially open it, but we're now past the time. Is there anybody here for this project that would like to speak on it? We'll close public comment now. Everybody's had their say. I think it's a good project. I think we need to incorporate just some language in there about hydroseeding, making sure the mix is an acceptable mix. You guys can do the research, kind of submit it, and it'll get processed, but I'm not sure it really needs to go through a full review process for the mix that's already approved.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fred, any additional comments, since you were talking about a planting plan? And
I brought that up only because I guess I'm concerned that this board has to look at the context of the entire neighborhood in which we look at these things. But I also understand the dilemma the applicant is under trying to get this accomplished. So I'm not adamant that we need to deal with, and if our landscape member is satisfied that the explanation given is adequate to get the job done,
we didn't lose any oak trees or anything, a specimen tree.
You know, the same issue would happen if the applicant was dealing with trees that were old and had to be taken out just because they're done their productive lives. So, who knows? I mean, 15, 20 years from now, you'll be, even if the slope is stabilized, you still may be faced with taking trees out just because they're old.
All right. Yes, Brian.
I just want to make a comment to help the clients, because frequently it's strange for you to be here to review something that seems like a no-brainer, but I think you're under a jurisdiction where it's a huge home being built and all this stuff, but you fall under that same umbrella, and that's why and actually Fred's comments seem appropriate based on what we're supposed to be doing here, but it is kind of strange because what you're doing is probably not under per se what we're supposed to be reviewing, but you have to be under that same category.
Yes.
Michelle, I see you grabbing the mic.
I just wanted to clarify on that. This project was triggered for design review specifically because the quantity of grading and its location in the Hillside Design District. So regardless of no alterations to the house, there was a pertinent trigger for design review here.
And Michelle, a question for you. It says Tier 2 stormwater management. Has anybody actually seen these plans? And so can we make a final motion on it?
Thank you, Board Member Chair Deisler. I was just going to mention that as well. There is Tier 2 SWIMP requirement that is required. Those can be any measure of any basic BMPs. I noticed, I think you mentioned something about erosion stabilization, so if you can maybe clarify.
Our last 3 sheets of this plans are all to do with erosion control and...
So maybe just have that discussion real briefly with the board, how you might...
Just show us the pages and we just want to take a look at them.
If you turn to sheets, what we call PP 1, 2, and 3, the last 3 sheets there, basically, and we have modified these now to address concerns from the Building and Safety Department. We've got the squiggly lines crossing the plan there are fiber roll berm. We've got 3 times as many of those in there now. We have a straw bale dike system across the bottom as well as a silt fence. If you turn to the sheet after that, PP2, that gives details of, as I said, the fiber rolls, the silt fence, the straw bales, the requirement for putting filter fabric across the catch basins during the construction so that no silt goes into the storm drain system, as well as an entrance protection system for trucks leaving the site. And then the third page, PP3, has all of our specifications, which, as are required by the state guidelines for erosion control and pollution prevention.
All right, thank you.
And the city, by the way, state and city.
Denise, you have a comment on that?
Well, my concern is that, we're telling them they need to do stormwater management, and I guess this does comply, but I mean, the whole idea of that was to keep water on site, which you certainly don't want to do, I'm sure, at this point. But is there anything here that holds on to some of that water, or does it all just get taken to the storm drain? Because from what I can understand, you're taking it all to a storm drain and getting rid of it.
Well, not what's landing on the orchard. The orchard, I mean, the water that falls, rainfall on the orchard will do what it's always doing, will soak in or run off, as the case may be, depending on the amount of saturation in the soil. What we're doing is ensuring that what has landed on the driveway and the motor court previously does not go down into the subterranean surface, which is what we believe caused the failure in the first place. Because, again, the separation between the old retaining wall and the pavement allowed that water just to drop vertically into that substrata and saturate those soils at the top of the slope, which caused it to fail. We're collecting that water off the driveway, which is what it was designed to do initially, but that original driveway and wall system, as long ago it was built, it eventually failed, basically. And so we're rebuilding that and putting in a much safer storm drain system that will make sure that it's not going to happen in the future. But what lands on the orchard and on landscaping, no, that's staying on the site as much as it did before. There's no change to that.
All right. So Denise, I think what our board should do is, I mean, we have a civil engineer as part of this design. This whole design is a civil engineered project. Is to work with staff to make sure that this does meet their criteria. I mean, I don't know if we don't have the authority to even approve a Tier 2 or Tier 3, so it's a staff review. So I would just assume that this would meet it. If it doesn't, then they will have to come back, obviously, but there's no way for us to evaluate whether it meets Tier 2 or Tier 3 anyway.
Understood. Just was curious about that because it seemed...
No, that is a good point that Denise made, Chair Woolery, sorry. The board is eligible to look at BMP measures and determine, I mean, especially for Tier 2 basic BMP measures, if there is a BMP measure being utilized and if it's retaining any amount of rainwater on the site. Tier 3, the calculations that are involved, we do get more of staff, like engineering involved.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask a general question? What triggers a Tier 2? And I'm not real familiar with the procedures.
It's a whole program that we have, and I can show you the program, but it's...
I guess I'm going back to what triggered us coming before this board was the amount of grading.
Yeah.
Grading. And
any discretionary project that's reviewed by any of our boards or discretionary bodies are required by state law to comply with a on-site retention system. That's a state law, and then the city governed a product that tells you how to comply with those measures. Your parcel in this location would ordinarily trigger automatically Tier 3, which is the highest requirement, which requires civil engineering and calculations. Certain levels, there are tiers that can be reduced. So this has been reduced to a Tier 2 based on the certain components, and so you just need to show some basic BMP measures, which is a lesser requirement.
Denise?
And so that basically constitutes like rain barrels? Yeah. On the gutters. And just so that I can use your mind, you just catch your rainwater coming off your roof into a rain barrel and you comply with Tier 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal. I saw your face and I didn't want you to panic because I know you've been through enough. But,
yeah, we have.
And then you just send it down to your orchard.
You can only, you're not in the business and so you don't really understand. And so it's a very complicated procedure.
So we're going to make it as simple as possible.
Okay. Any additional comments? If not, then we're ready for some sort of motion.
I'll try a motion.
Okay.
And what we're going to give this is preliminary
project design
and final project design with the following NPO findings. The hillside design district and sloped lot findings that the development, including the proposed structures and grading, are designed to avoid visible scarring and does not significantly modify the natural topography of the site or the natural appearance of a ridgeline or hillside. The proposed grading will not significantly increase siltation or decrease the water quality of streams, drainages, or water storage facilities, and the proposed grading will not cause a substantial loss of southern oak woodland habitat.
All right. So that was a project and final you were proposing. That's the first. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Jim. Comments?
Mr. Chair, do we
Yes, Fred.
do we need to add the comments under the vegetation part of that motion? That basically they're going to take care of vegetation removal, et cetera.
Right, the proposed vegetation, as an adjunct to my motion, the proposed vegetation removal will not significantly increase siltation or decrease the quality of streams, drainages, or water storage facilities, and the proposed vegetation removal will not cause a substantial loss of southern oak woodland habitat, and it will comply with all applicable provisions of Chapter 2210 vegetation removal.
Is the seconder okay with that inclusion? Okay. Okay. Under further discussion, I think we should say that the applicant needs to provide a hydroseed mix that's acceptable to the city. Just provide, you're going to provide a mix. It's up to staff to just coordinate that. That doesn't mean come back here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair, under comments before vote on the motion, I just would encourage the applicant and the homeowner, if they haven't, to make sure you communicate to your downslope neighbor before you start construction what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's going to be pretty dramatic once they start taking all that stuff out and trucks start coming, et cetera. So,
I will.
Okay.
There's only one, and he actually put us through his whole building stuff about 5 years ago. So it's okay.
All the neighbors have been notified of this action.
Yes,
as
I've
is
talked to
required.
all of them personally.
Okay. Is there any other comments regarding the motion?
Is it going to consent? Or
Final.
We're giving it
to final, so,
Send
okay.
them on their way to get
Okay.
it done.
Okay.
Thank you.
No other comments? Let's take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries unanimously. I'll announce a 10-day appeal period, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks
Get it
very
in
much.
quick before it starts raining.
That's what we want to do. That last rain was
Oh,
really
that would be
scary.
wonderful, thank you.
Oh, good.
Okay. Can I ask a question? When we were talking about the engineering,
one of these.
about staff approval. When you're talking about staff approval, so in other words, when your engineer stamps off final approved, then that was your engineering staff approval and we're done, right? Oh, okay, great. All right. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise.
All right, we're a couple minutes ahead of schedule, but we'll start, just like we did the last project. So this is item number 4, 652 Ricardo Avenue. This is a new project, so I'll read the agenda. This is a proposal to construct 931 square foot of a one-story addition to an existing 1,611 square foot one-story residence with attached two-car garage located on a 20,831 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District. A portion of the existing residence will be demolished and reconstructed. Proposal includes a new courtyard area with a new fountain and new covered porch. The total development proposed is 2,958 square feet and is 63% of the maximum floor-to-lot area ratio guideline. The project addresses violations listed in ZAR 2011-176 to include the demolition of an accessory structure. This project requires compliance with a Tier 3 stormwater management program and is required prior to final approval. If you could introduce yourself.
My name is Ray Ames, here in representation of Tom Oxner.
Welcome. And your presentation.
Sure. In front of you is an approximate 1,000 square foot addition to a single-family residence. It includes pretty extensive work, both interior and as well as exterior. I'll go to sheet A1 here, and you can see the demolition plan involves not only the front entry and the kitchen, but the internal fireplace and living room and bedroom areas. Moving on to the next page, you can see our proposal involves providing a modern-day master suite over here to the right with an increase in living room and dining room size, a remodeled kitchen, a new entry, new laundry, a family room, and also some interior remodeling and an additional bedroom in the back here. At the front of the house, we have a 3.5-foot courtyard with some patio stone, and also this the fountain we're showing is actually beyond the setback, so we're going to either have to delete that or move it out of the setback. So that's something we've been made aware of through the zoning plan check. Let me see here. On the back is a covered porch. You've got typical 8x8 post condition. I'll take you to the front, or to the elevations rather. Our plan is to go to to remodel it, going with a smooth stucco, also a tile roof, some decorative columns at the front, some metal-clad windows. I'm trying to think. Let's see here. We've got, you see some skylights that we're doing along the roof line, and also a new fireplace or chimney remodel as well. And then just that's about it.
Do you have any photos of existing?
I think we have some on file.
Okay. We'll get them in a second.
Yeah,
I notice they're out there. Anything else for your proposal?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to open up public I'm going to wait on public comments since they're scheduled for 4:40. We'll open it up in a little bit, but I'll bring it back to the board for questions at this point. One of the questions is going to be, we'd like to see some photos of what's there and what's, your neighborhood.
Sure.
So we'll get those from the file in a second.
Okay.
Anybody else? Questions?
I have a
Yes,
question.
Fred.
On the plan I have marked on the T10 plan, it has 1,250 square feet open yard space indicated on the drawing. I've been out to the site. That site drops off dramatically. The bottom of this lot is good for billy goats. So I guess I'm questioning, staff walked out of the room, whether identifying inaccessible land area as the open yard area, is that acceptable?
Okay. Ray, can you address that? If not, I can maybe piggyback on that a little.
Well, actually, I've had a couple of similar projects where we have open yard, and you find it surprising, but when you do have I believe it's over 20%. When you're over 20%, this is how that gets applied.
So, Fred, the other thing that you didn't mention, there's actually another open yard area of a 10 by 16 of 160 up on the upper side. And I think Ray is correct, zoning-wise. If we have a steep area, then the actual area required is lessened tremendously to this lower number of 160 square feet. We do have staff coming back, so she will verify that for us. And we'll get photographs to present as well. Any other questions? Well,
And then looking at least on this first plan, there is, and I'm assuming we're here for concept review?
well, it doesn't say whether it's ready or not. It might be.
Concept review. So the concept is there's some retaining walls here. Are those existing?
Yes.
And then there's a whole bunch of railroad ties on this site, way down. Where are those in relationship to this plan?
I don't have that. I don't have that depicted for you. I guess we don't have that surveyed or depicted.
And is the intent to keep those, or replace those, or regrade? What's your idea?
The idea is to keep those. I'm assuming. Excuse me. I believe the idea is to keep those. We haven't heard otherwise from the owner.
And then it also said in the application that part of this application is to correct some issues that
Fred, is your mic on?
zoning requirements. There, Tom. So are there some? It was indicated there's some issues that have to be cleaned up here because of zoning requirements, and something about a non-complying outbuilding.
Yeah.
But I didn't see where those were.
And on our site plan, we failed to put on the outbuilding, but it's going to be demolished. It's a small, about a 10 by 10 outbuilding that's going to be taken off the plan.
Where is that?
It would be to your right of the residence.
Up here, over here.
Yeah, that
Over there.
side, and then the rear stairs and the rear covered patio will be demolished.
Ray, do those photographs show that?
I believe, actually,
Oh, okay, there it is, okay. And then when I was out there, you know, this house was, appears to have been built as part of the original development of that whole tract, which was basically they leveled a bunch of pads that kind of climbed up the hill. So the edge of kind of the existing pad where it starts to drop off, I guess I'm having a problem figuring out where is that based on your new proposed porch. Where is that in relationship to this porch? Is that over here?
I'm
or is
sorry,
that at the porch?
I didn't catch the first part of your
Where
question.
basically the pad is relatively flat where the house sits, and then there's a drop.
Right.
Where is that in relationship to your new porch?
That would be in relationship to our new porch right now?
Yeah.
So
In other words, you show a new
old
porch
house,
here, yeah.
A new porch, essentially where the old porch is?
Fred, again, we have to actually point to things
sorry.
here because of the people at home.
Sorry. So what I'm trying to figure out is where does the site start to drop off in relationship to this new porch?
To the new porch, essentially here. You can see that's the most significant.
So I see a grade line right there. Is that, you think, where the drop-off occurs?
Yeah, for sure. This corner right here.
So is your idea to regrade it, or are you going to have a high end on that porch?
Well, we'll actually, we're going to have, in combination with this, we're going to have some site repairs as well. On that corner specifically, I don't think we've delineated exactly what we want to do.
Okay.
By all accounts, at this point, it's going to be a high corner. But I'm thinking that in the future, we'd like to have a solution that's much cleaner than that.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Hold on, we didn't open up. We'll go there.
Okay, but
All right. Did you fill out a slip?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to open up public comment for you right now.
Sorry, I'm the...
Now, if you could come up right here, you have to be on camera and on mic, and you have 2 minutes.
Introduce yourself, please. Hi, my name is Ron Karsing. I'm the front door neighbor. Actually, Fred has actually done a very good job there going over there, checking the site, and he described the actual lot, exactly what it is. And our concern is, if they're to build a second story on the existing, which doesn't make sense to us. And the house is condemned as it stands, and it splits in the middle. We know for a fact, because we knew the neighbors priorly. And it was sold as a estate sale because the law allows it. Otherwise, it's unlivable right now as it is. So our concern would be if they're to build a house, by all means, we're all for it. I think you should approve it with no questions. But our thing would be it should not be any higher than the existing structure that's already there, and which would jeopardize our property and fair value, which we paid for. So that's our concern.
All right.
So we're all for the project and all that, but
Just a clarification, because you mentioned the second story.
yeah,
I don't believe this proposal has a second story.
no.
So one story.
But it does not go any higher than.
We're
Because
gonna ask some of those
I did not see the
questions.
plan, so I wasn't aware of it.
I understand.
And I just received this like a couple of days ago, so I just here.
So we're going to ask some of those questions, but it is not 2 stories. We'll ask if it's any higher. So that's just part of the process we'll go
Okay.
through.
And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time, so.
That's okay.
I do need to go.
We appreciate your time, though.
Sorry.
No, thank you.
All right. And thank you.
So any other public comment? Is there any public comment in the file? If we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for additional questions.
Yeah, I have a
Yes, Jim.
question. There's no roof plan. How do you plan on, you plan on demoing the whole roof? Or
Essentially, we are going to demo the whole roof, pretty much, Jim. There's a section over the garage area that is going to remain, but there's pretty much through the center. We're going to put a new beam and then pony up and then cover the whole porch and go back to the original starting point. So
Okay.
I think in the end, you're right. It's going to be.
do you have drawings of the existing house?
I only have floor plan.
You don't have any elevations?
No, not the existing
So
elevation.
that's effectively what we have right there.
So you can see the spring line of the existing roof is right from the front porch and then along the front of the garage. So it springs up and goes back down.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, I have. So if I hear you correctly, we don't have a existing section of this house, so we can compare that to what you're proposing in a new section of this house. I don't see any sections on these
No, we
drawings.
don't have any cross-sections for you at this time.
I think I've stated this to other applicants before. When you come in for concept review, in my view, to do a good design, in order to understand how a building goes together, it springs from the sections of your design, and I don't see those. So that's why I'm having a hard time trying to understand what this house is going to look like.
Okay, kind of just a follow-up on that and the neighbor's question. Looking at the photographs, it looks like a modest ranch house with a 4 or 5 pitch on it. It's hard to know from the photo. You're proposing a 4 pitch and a 9-foot plate. Do you know what the plate heights are on the existing house?
Existing house is a 8-foot plate, and then throughout, actually.
Okay, so your spring line or your bird's mouth height is a foot higher, and because your project is deeper than the proposed, chances are this is going to be a little bit higher than this.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I think, as much as 3 feet higher, and when we're done.
Okay. Additional questions? Bernie, any questions?
No more questions.
Okay. Brian, any questions? Denise? No. Okay, let's move to comments then. I think you're going to know where our comments are based on our questions.
Mr. Chair, did you guys have any questions of me?
The only question we had was one of Fred's comments regarding the open yard requirement on a property that's got a restricted, when it's a heavy slope and there's not a lot of open yard available that isn't less than 20%, what is the planning solution, or what is the option, let's say?
When a property has a slope of greater than 20%, the landscaped area is greater than 20%, they're required to provide a minimum of 160 square feet of a flat area, which I do believe he has provided, at least maybe it was written on the plans. So
Yeah, I
that's
see that
fine.
too. So,
And just a staff comment in general, one of the plan check corrections was that the fountain is not allowed if it's a structure in the front yard that's in the setback,
It's in
so
the setback, so we'll either have to
that'll have to be
alleviate that,
removed or relocated to another location. Yeah.
okay, thank you. So how about some comments for the applicant? Yes, Brian?
I would say you're going in the right direction, but I'm gathering from the board, we need a little more information.
Oh, we'd look forward to it, sure.
Yeah, so, and I'll tag on to that, a one-story solution is good. We just need more information, like Brian says, existing information, sectional information, like Fred was talking about.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I made a list.
Oh, go for it.
I would like to see, when this comes back, 2 horizontal building sections, so we understand how, and a roof plan, how this building's going to come together. At least 1 longitudinal section of the house. I think because of the nature of the slope of this site and what you're proposing, there needs to be some civil drawings of some sort. I want to see a landscape plan, particularly given the circumstances of the existing vegetation on that slope, which is pretty gnarly at this point. I'd also like to see what the applicant proposed in terms of fencing around the property. The current fencing is a consortium of various types of fences, much of it which is in disrepair. And I want to see a site section from the street all the way down to the bottom, and then its relationship to the house just below this site. I'd like to see a large section, probably 1/4-inch scale, of what you're proposing on the porch or deck area as it meets the edge of that slope. When you designate your flat area, I'd like to see what that really means in terms of actual being the owner being able to use the site, use that flat area. And then specifically to the architecture, I have a great deal of problem with the proportions of the window fenestrations, the garage door openings, the arches over the porch. I know that you're attempting to do a Spanish Mediterranean interpretation of architecture, but I just don't see it yet. It needs a lot of help in that direction. So I'd want to see some either photographs or proposed sketches of how you're going to really deal with the details of how this house is laid out. Traditionally, just as an example, in your north elevation, which is, I assume, the street elevation, one would see a porch divided into arches, and typically would be overtly asymmetrical, i.e. some things that George Washington Smith used to do, or they would be symmetrical around the door entry. And right now the door is indicating to kind of hug one of the columns. So I think the elevations need a lot of work.
Additional comments?
Mr. Chair, just to add to that.
Ms. Bernie.
I'd like to see more photographs of the surrounding properties. Sure. And this one, how it fits in. Sometimes people will bring they'll embed it in and show how tall it is compared to the ones next to it, that sort of thing.
Additional comments for the applicant? I think Fred did a pretty good job there. Denise, how do you feel about, Fred talked about a landscape plan, and kind of looking at the extents of where that could be. I mean, we're only talking about development at the top. There's already existing retaining walls down below. I didn't go to the site, so I don't know what's below.
Neither did I, but just from the plans alone, it looks to me like some site work needs to be done, and that those existing retaining walls don't really relate to anything, and if you're going to raise that corner, that's going to take some engineering. It really, I would also like to see what that slope looks like and what vegetation is on it now, and it's part of the property and probably should be treated in such a way that it's all homogeneous, and it looks like it should also lean toward slope retention. So I'd be very, very interested in seeing a landscape plan that addresses all of that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Jim?
I think additional photos.
Oh, sure. Beyond the boundaries of your site, and then even
what the bank looks like.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Ray, just another question after looking at the photographs. This house is on the slab, it looks like.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, the neighbor mentioned something about it was condemned.
No, it's not condemned, but it is going to have some very extensive corrective work done to it. We're going to be doing some, as part of this project, caissons and grade beams, maybe some screw ties to fix it. It's really under poor condition right now.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
I see. So you're just basically using the basic footprint then. So,
pretty much. I mean, first order of business will be to correct the deficient slab.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, kind of tagging on to Fred's original comment about the slope, defining where the slope is and looking at this photograph.
Scary.
Have you talked to some geotechnical people and as far as how far back from this slope you might want to be?
I don't know about addressing that exact corner, but we have had a SOLS report done on it in order to proceed with our initial thoughts on the repair of the site.
Okay. Well, just word of advice, just make sure you do your due diligence on that side.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest to the applicant that it's not just a matter of the soils report. I think you need to look at slope stabilization on this site. If you've been out to this site, it is at least visually, it looks of great concern, particularly the properties that are below this. And so a soils report, in my mind, is probably sufficient to understand how to deal with the slab and the foundation of the building. But I think that some understanding of the geotech circumstances on that slope is going to be fairly important.
I agree. and there are some options where that portion in the back doesn't necessarily have to go the full length, and you can cut back a little bit on that side.
True.
So make sure you think about that.
Absolutely.
I'd like to ask the board how the board feels. You know, this is an example. They're saying it's 63% of maximum FAR, but it's a steep slope, and all that counts in. So it's, you know, maybe, how does the board feel? I did not get a chance to drive by this, so about the style and the size as a point to give him to work with.
Anybody want to talk about that?
I'll pipe in because I did go by and look at the neighborhood, and I did look at. The neighboring houses. As some of you may know, and you probably reviewed, there's a whole series of brand new houses or fairly new houses just down La Vista del Oceano. That's that next house. That's why I think it's important we get some photographs to see how this site relates to that next house. There's a garage here at the bottom. Yes. And so the relationship of window settings, et cetera, to the house below is probably going to be very important. We've reviewed other projects in recent months where that's become an issue. And so I think we want to understand what that is. And then below this site, there are a whole series of newer houses. In fact, I think one or two that are actually under construction. Up on Ricardo Avenue, there are a whole series of very traditional 60s era tract houses, most all of them single story, although there's some two-story within the neighborhood. So I'm not particularly concerned currently, based on what I see on these set of drawings, about the size of the house in relationship to the neighborhood or the lot. I'm more concerned about how the design solution integrates into a site that's got some real challenges in terms of its topography.
I think that was said excellently. I mean, I feel the same way. I'm not so concerned about the FAR size in the neighborhood, but just fitting it on that property. I mean, yes, this applicant could propose a second story and still be within that FAR, even a little higher, and probably fit into the neighborhood. So I like the one-story solution, but we have to be careful we're not getting close to these slopes, and it just fits and feels right there. So, anybody else want to comment on the size FAR? Okay.
Yeah, well, there's a precedent-setting house on Ricardo that passed this board that is 2 stories plus some. Not something that I was for, but there it is. And so, you know, and that neighborhood is turning over in that direction. So I'm not opposed necessarily to a 2-story if it's well done, but you know, it's just this lot, I don't know what it can take.
How are you
I'm
feeling
more
about
concerned about the ability of this lot to handle really much of anything at this point. You know, it's a tough one. You know, it doesn't seem.
But the pure FAR number and square footage for the neighborhood is.
Well, like I said, it's in transition, and so this, you know, there's already been precedent-setting homes, big homes being built there. So this FAR is very, very small in comparison.
Okay.
I just have to chime in, though, because precedent setting, you know, if we make a mistake or if we approve houses that when they're finished and they don't fit, we have to admit that, and we don't have to use those as the mark. I mean, we change. That's part of why we want to see these completed projects that I know we've discussed a few of them where we did make mistakes.
Mr. Chair, what I might propose in addition to that list of things that we should look at when the applicant comes back in.
Is this a motion, Fred?
It probably would be helpful. Maybe I'll make a motion in a second, but let me just add one more comment. It would be helpful when you lay out your north elevation or street elevation that you include some piece of the house that it's immediately to the west so that we can see proportionally where the roof line is to that existing house to the roof line and the eave heights, et cetera, that you're proposing on this redesign of this new house so that we get some comparison, because that's the most immediate house that probably has the biggest impact in terms of the streetscape. Because the other side, obviously, across the street, and then the other homes are way down below.
Okay. Any additional comment before Fred tries to fashion a motion? So Michelle, right now, this project it's not ready for a motion, approval, or is this ready for an approval?
Well, it's ready by our
Planning.
standards for
Okay.
environmental review, but it sounds like you're not ready yet.
Okay, well, we'll get, and Fred will incorporate that into his motion, or we'll add it.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'll try to start composing a motion here. We would request that the applicant come back at a time to be determined and provide us with some additional information for further review of the concept. So, let me reread the comments I made earlier. We'd like to see at least 2 horizontal building sections, 1 longitudinal building section. We'd like to see a depiction of the street elevation or north elevation as depicted on these drawings so that it shows relationship to a portion of the neighbor immediately to the west on Ricardo Avenue, so we can compare plate heights and ridge heights of the roof. We'd like to see a preliminary landscape plan. We'd like some indication of proposed fencing around the site, and that's completely around the site. We want to see a complete site section coming from Ricardo Avenue, dropping to the south, running north-south, and its relationship to the neighbor's residential neighbor to the south. We'd like to see quarter-inch section studies of the porch area as it relates to the change in slope. We'd like a clear definition of the required zoning flat area and its usability by the homeowner. And we would like to see further studies of the proportions of the window fenestrations, door fenestrations, and the garage door fenestrations on the elevations. We'd also want indication of the non-complying outbuilding to be shown on the site. And if the fountain in front of the house needs to be relocated because of zoning setback requirements, we should see what that looks like.
Thank you. So that's a first and a second. Under comments, Denise, I see you grabbing.
No.
Okay. I see, Ray, I see a big dot over here. Is that a tree?
You know, I think that's a power pole that we didn't call out.
Okay.
Yeah. It was on the original
Okay.
survey.
Okay. So additional comments for the motion? Anybody? Okay, we'll take a vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed and abstains. Now, Fred, you mentioned sometime in the future, I think it was just going to be a indefinite continuance, the full board. So the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're a couple minutes early on this project as well, but I think we can start. Okay. So this is the 5th item on the agenda, 1708 Calle Boca del Cañon. A proposal to construct a new 331-square-foot second-story addition to an existing 1,351-square-foot one-story single-family residence with a basement and attached 334-square-foot one-car garage, resulting in a total development of 2,016 square feet on a 6,390-square-foot lot. The 1,351 square foot of existing residence includes a 344 square foot basement, which is exempt from the Florida lot area ratio calculation. The proposal is 60% of the maximum required FAR. And we'll get plans here in a second. If you could just introduce yourself.
My name is Mehdi Hadiji.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And we'll probably get photographs as well.
It's photos. I have it on.
Okay, your presentation, sir.
We are adding 331 square foot second floor addition, top of the existing garage under construction.
This project is already under construction right
Yes.
now? Okay.
The garage.
Okay.
We're just adding a second floor on top of the existing garage.
Okay.
Let's see, the site plan. This page basically, this is the house, and these are the immediate neighbors' photos here. And as you see, this is the existing, or I should say, under construction garage.
Okay. Is this the front of your property?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And next photo is basically, this is the house, and these are the neighbors.
This is great. See all these? All right.
And this is just for reference only. This is the slab-on-grade garage and a staircase. And these are the detail which has been finished already and has been inspected and approved. And this is the existing or under construction slash garage and a staircase. And this is the existing house, existing basement. And then we have just the same staircase which goes to the basement. We double stack that to go to upstairs. And this is the existing house and the garage under construction, almost finished. And this is the second floor addition, on the top of the existing staircase, bedroom, her closet, his closet, in the bathroom, and the roof plan here. And these are the new elevations. The garage under construction, and this is top of the garage from the street side. East elevation and north elevation.
Anything else for your presentation?
That's it.
Thank you very much. So we're still a couple minutes early on public comment. I'll wait on that. Is there any staff comments on this project? I don't see anything at the bottom that says if this is ready for a motion or... Okay. So how about let's bring it to the board for their questions.
Mr. Chair, I'll start.
Yes, Fred.
Start on this thing. Here. Oh, okay. Went out to the site. This is a little site. And so these folks are trying to make the best of a very small piece of property. So one of the questions I had, Nettie, was on your plan, in the current garage being constructed, and I know it's under construction because they had a tarp over it, was there ever any consideration of taking that staircase that's coming out of the kitchen through the garage and putting the staircase outside the garage so they get a little more inside area?
Yeah, the reason the owner really loves the backyard.
Oh, okay.
And she really wants to, and then the light, the porch area here, oh, I should say here, she sit in the morning and enjoy the morning sun, and we try to just keep it as, that was the only reason.
Okay.
That's a good comment.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions from board? No questions? No more questions? Okay. Let's move to comments then.
You started
Existing house looks, I'm fine with it.
I mean, I don't see anything that's architecturally out of character of the neighborhood or of the house itself. So I'm comfortable with it. So.
All right, thank you. Denise?
Well, I have to disagree. For me, to just see that one side elevated like that seems so out of balance, and it just like stacking one on top of another. It doesn't seem to relate to the rest of the house. I guess it's just not, it's my most unfavorite type of addition that looks like an addition. It doesn't look like it's integrated into the actual rest of the house to me. Also, the window on the north elevation, there, well, I guess that's existing, isn't it? Or is that in the back of the garage?
Yeah.
I'm not sure why it's placed where it is. But
It's a landing. It's there.
Oh, here. I guess I'm talking about that window there. No, that's all I have to say about it.
All right, thanks. Jim, any comments?
Well, it just really seems to be really popping up there with the low, with the low roof. And I'm just wondering if you could maybe, and this is 6 feet from the property line, would you maybe go to a low plate at the property line and then maybe go with a roof coming up with an offset ridge or something? Instead of having it pop up right in the center. I think something else could be done with the roof.
Okay, we'll talk more about that, I'm sure.
Mr. Chair, if I might just pipe in and give a couple comments. I just wanted to let the board know that this project, as Fred mentioned, it is in construction right now. What they are doing, they have an active building permit for a garage addition, and the garage is a one-car addition, and as you can see, they're proposing the addition above the new proposed garage. The garage is being maintained as a one-car garage because they are doing the total additions is less than 50% since the year of 1980, which is the year they'd have to, if it exceeded 50% of the additions, they'd have to bring their parking into conformance. We're providing 2 covered spaces. That is the exception on this rule. And so I think, other than that, they do need Tier 2 SWIMP prior to final approval, and that's about it.
Okay, so just a clarification of what you just said. With this proposed change, it still is less than 50%?
Yes.
Okay. So it doesn't trigger another parking space?
No.
Okay, got it.
I'd like to add another.
Yes, Jim.
The stairs really, it doesn't have to be 2-story. You're coming up a half a level to landing and then going up the rest of the way. So that whole back portion could be dropped down in height.
This plate right here.
So at the landing, you'd have maybe a 6.5, 7-foot wall, and then slope it up with the stairs. So you get a break in that 2-story back there.
Okay. Bernie, comments?
I'd like to ask staff a question about this kind of project, maybe not necessarily this particular project, but so somewhere in the recent time, a permit was given for a garage addition, and there's already a basement. The basement is habitable space, but it doesn't count in anything because it's exempt. So let's just talk in general, not about this project, but in general projects. So, people talk about the 2-step process. Well, let's get this because how does that fit in when somebody gets approval and then they come back while they're still, how does that affect us?
Well, the current application that has a building permit, that was exempt from design review because it's less than 17 feet in height and it's not in any specific, it's not in the Hillside Design District. So that was eligible to just go a straight building permit. The fact that they're doing now a 2nd-story addition is what triggered it for design review. That's the project that's before you today. The basement's existing, the garage was approved. There's no, I don't know if that answers all of your questions, but that's...
But Bernie, the other thing is Michelle talked about just a second ago was the combined, the building permit that's already on record and that's being built right now, and this addition have been kind of ganged together as a zoning review, and it didn't trigger any additional or an additional parking space.
50%.
Yeah, so it's not being piecemealed and avoiding these rules. They're kind of looking at it going back, I don't know how many years.
Since 1980.
1980. So that's kind of a good catch-all where it doesn't allow you to kind of piecemeal things little.
If they came back tomorrow and were doing, in addition to this proposal, and another 5 square feet, that might have triggered them over the 50% rule, and then they would have had to come up to
a second
provide a 2-car
Yeah.
parking situation.
Okay. Bernie, any other comments regarding the design?
Well, I guess, we want to encourage people with existing houses to be able to fix them up, and even if they're on small lots like a lot of the Upper West Side houses are. But I do like Jim's suggestion of figuring out how can we minimize the impact of the height, the tallness of that, looking over on, people can see that, they can see the lights at night. It does have an impact. So I'm leaning toward wanting to support this idea, but I'd like it maybe to be smaller or shorter.
Okay, we'll talk about that, and I'm sure Fred will talk about that too right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I come up here so I
Point.
And I want to follow up on Denise's comment. One of the struggles I think this board will continually have as we move forward is the challenge we're going to have in the neighborhoods like the West Side, where the properties are terribly small. The houses were fairly modest when they were originally built, and now we have growing families, we have bigger needs, and so we're really trying to deal with the fact that we're trying to still make small houses work, and I would still define this as a small house kind of project, which we typically try to encourage. Some of our other applicants are doing larger houses. So from that standpoint, I don't have a problem with the size necessarily. I think what my concern about is how it's articulated. And so, for instance, one of the things you might think about is reconfiguring this bathroom so that the windows make a little more sense. I could just imagine in the morning me trying to shave in front of the mirror, but also then looking out this fairly nice sized window that's either going to have a drape over it or something. And I think if one maybe re-looked at the reconfiguration of the bathroom and then reconfiguration of the windows in relationship to how the bathroom is used, it might work a little bit better. And kind of coming off of, Jim, your comment about how the roof is on the front, one can have a configuration where you could still deal with the 8-foot plate heights, but perhaps if you change the roof where maybe we got a little bit of a shingle look here, and then some other element that popped up like this, and or something, some other approach to how you frame that roof. So then if we can go to the elevations, and so that maybe the solution is 2 windows. I'm not saying do 2 windows. I'm just saying look at how you configure that bathroom to make the window systems work. If it's 1 window, maybe this begs for some shutter treatments or planter box or some other thing. I think also this idea of this little trellis element over the door, proportionally, I think it would look a lot better if that were dropped a little bit. Right now, you've kind of just divided the 2 floors based on the actual plate height. But from a viewing standpoint, I think proportionally it might look better if that were dropped down. That coupled with Jim's idea of maybe dropping the plate height down to 7.6 here, maybe 7.6 on both sides, and then reconfiguring the roof frame might look nice. And then Denise, your comment on the window on this side. Now that I kind of understand what's going on, there's staircases in here, but that window is there so they can enjoy the view from the master bedroom, which is obviously something that's desirable, but I think the proportion of that window to the shape of this shape is not there yet. I think it needs some work. On this elevation, the little eyebrows over these windows, proportionally, they might be able to drop a little bit. Get that eave line to drop down lower over there. I think, I'd like to see a little section through there to see how that really works with the relationship to where these windows are set. So there's just, I think the general approach is good. It's just the nuances of the proportions and the details probably need a little more work.
Okay, thank you. Denise? Yeah.
Well, my biggest concern about it is that this is a one-car garage, so we don't have a lot of width here, and this thing's going to go pop it up in the sky. I just think proportionally it's not really going to look good in the end, I mean, I understand what you said, though, about, yes, there are small homes and they're going to be in transition and like that. I just am not sure this is the correct solution for it.
All right, thanks. Brian, you grabbing?
Well, yeah, I've never heard all these comments. The thing is, I kind of know, I think the people you want it over the garage because they want to live in the house and they don't want to leave the house, so you kind of stuck over the garage. I think what Jim and Fred said are some things to think about. At least you have something to play with to creatively enhance it. But yeah, I mean, lowering that trellis is a neat idea. 2 windows. I don't know about the roof that you're saying, because I think you're trying to play off this roof over here. But try it and see. It might be a good solution. So.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of different solutions and things that need to be tried. If we kind of look at what Fred drew, I mean, I think you just by nature drew a steeper roof pitch because it works better than this shallow pitch. So when you kind of try to wrap around that one roof on a shallow pitch, it may not be
It may not work, and so you have to combine that with some section studies, a roof plan. So I think, and what you might do is you might want to come back to us, and I know everybody's always under a time crunch and wants to get things rapidly done, but one of the things you might be able to do is at least maybe come back to with 2 approaches on how that roof is shaped. And that might help us a little bit kind of get where Denise is going, so that these fairly complicated additions that we're going to continue to see on these small houses get to be problematic. But I think there's ways to make it look good, make it work, and not look like it's just been tacked on, which I think we see a lot of on some of the other houses that haven't been reviewed by this board.
I want to kind of tackle a big issue first, and then we'll kind of talk about all the little architectural things that we've just been discussing. How is the board feeling about...
Can I respond to any of this comment?
In a minute, yeah, we'll ask.
All right.
We would like to see your response graphically. How about that?
I can do that, but there are things has been said here, and I have some reason to. Why did I come up with this plan?
We understand. There's challenges on every project. We understand that.
I just want to share, if I can, I would like to share that with the
Okay,
board.
well, I'll give you that opportunity. I just want to kind of get to that point, and then we'll kind of put it back in your lap a little bit. Bigger issue, is everybody okay with the square footage, the mass, the bulk? I know it can be tweaked some, but is everybody okay? We're talking about a 60% FAR on this lot. In the neighborhood, is this an acceptable? I think the applicant showed lots of photographs of neighborhoods. It has a wide variety of styles, wide variety of shapes, and I think second stories as well. So is anybody opposed to a second story solution given the square footage that we see here? I don't think so. So there's a solution. Okay. I think that, again, now we've jumped over that issue, is now refinement of the design. And I think Fred and Brian and everybody on the board has talked about, Denise has talked about, well, don't love this one yet. So we're looking for options. We're looking for what can we do to enhance this project. So it's a little bit in your lap, but we're trying to give you some ideas. And I know you can say, well, this is why, but it's still not, it's still not a beautiful project yet. I think you can get it there. I'll give you a second. Go ahead.
Well, a number of things has been said here. I could start from, well, Denise's disagree with the height. One of the reasons, I briefly can respond to that, the owner has dust allergy, and she's very, very, I don't know how I can describe that. She's very sensitive to dust. And that's why we have these construction completely. She has her life, and this is under construction, so she can live with it. I mean, this is the best can be done for her. And, of course, maybe that's not acceptable to the board, because board is here to look at for aesthetic reason. But I'm sharing with you what we're going through. And the second issue is this is the best location. We can have second floor, and the owner can enjoy the mountain view and not blocking the neighbor beyond. Okay. I mean, if you put here, if you look at on the side photo I have, the next neighbor is going to. We showed all the neighbors. Everybody was okay with it. Nobody would disagree with the project. As a matter of fact, one of the neighbors, I think, they sent a letter. Okay, and so that's the reason, really, and financially. This is already there. I mean, this roof is going to be here. We're just moving it 8 feet higher, and adding a couple of walls and door and windows, and then she's get what she wants. And there are 3 people living here. And this neighbor, one other thing, Denise, is this neighbor here, I can show you a photo, there's a driveway here, and always there's 2 or 3 cars parked. So every morning about 7 o'clock, they start the car, and the bedroom is here, and she gets up. And she lived with it more than 13, 14, 15 years now. And this is really a dream for her to get away from the noise and the fume every morning. So,
I think we understand, and I think there are solutions that.
No, I agree. I'll try my best. I'll try my best. And then the answer to Jim, playing with the roof, I don't have any problem. But this project, the only area matter to make this bedroom be enjoyable is this window. If you lower the roof, you're not going to be. This is what you see. This is they're under construction. You can see. This is the view you have. If you bring the roof down, then it's just you're killing the whole bedroom, the view purpose, and that's another.
These are the first floor walls, though, right?
Yeah, that's the garage right now.
Uh-huh.
And so that's the only reason. I mean, I'm more than happy to exercise the plate height, but I know I have done that. It's just really, you're not going to be able to see anything in the view. And that's the only view corridor we have to see the mountain. And this is the second floor, right looking at the yard. This second floor.
Okay.
Huge second floor. And going back to Fred, I mean, I agree all the things you said, Fred. I can work on the detail and tweak it here and there. And absolutely the trellis could be lower because we're going to put the vine grow up here. And the layout of the window, Fred, for the bathroom, there's what we're trying to do to make that elevation simple, because I look at all the neighborhoods, they have a lot of them like this second floor addition, just like that with this big window and the flower box in the bottom. Very simple, nothing in the bracket up there. And I just mimic the neighborhood. Here, this window, this is a mirror here, and this window would be open. If you're shaving, you can look in the mirror, but here you can look at outside when you're brushing your teeth. So that was the concept of keeping. And the other thing is I repeat the same size and the character of the existing window. If you look at it, they have fixed and one casement. So I try to, as much as I could, repeat what we have, just even here, having one picture window, fixed one, and a casement, which just open at the landing of the second floor.
Okay. Again, I think we get it.
Okay. I have one thing
This is a very in reality, a very modest
Yeah,
addition.
300.
Very modest
31.
addition.
And this is basically, I just made that, that's going to be, maybe Dennis, we'll help Dennis to give Brian.
Are you going to have exposed rafter tails?
Well, I try to just really make it.
You see this, but we didn't see it.
I try to keep the simplicity of the original house and the neighborhood. And these are, Denise, this is the car I was talking about. This is the minimum. They always, it's getting away from that
It's a
really.
Prius, those
Yeah.
don't make any noise.
The front one.
So Fred, you've seen the picture, the 3D picture that? Yeah. Okay. So, sir, we appreciate your comments. We're going to kind of try to wrap it up into some comments here.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, we have to open up public comment
Exactly,
still,
yes.
since we've skipped that a little bit before. Okay. Are there notes, are some letters in the file?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. There's one letter received from Douglas Scott, the neighbor located at 1716 Cayboco del Canyon, and they are in support of the project.
Thank you very much. Not seeing anybody else or having any slips, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for the resolution of this.
After hearing what the client has said, or applicant, I would have to feel that I think as a board we've got to be very careful of how we talk about these projects and focus more on the compatibility and how it blends in with the neighborhood, and not necessarily give a lecture on teaching how to design architecture, because I don't think that's quite appropriate. I think we've got to be careful, and there's parameters and limits on these houses. They're not perfect. Granted, I hear what Denise is saying, but I feel that with what we've got, what he's got, what the client wants, what the cost is, this is appropriate. I mean, that's my bottom line. That's my feeling on this. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else, or anybody would like to make a motion?
Well, I'd like to comment. The way this is drawn here,
Jim, let's put that right here. So
the driveway is about twice as wide as that.
This
So
existing
is that car parking in the front yard?
Presently, there's the existing driveway here, which we got a permit, that would be removed. And that's the new driveway. That would be landscape, and that's the walkway.
This is part of the existing building
Under
permit.
construction.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So it's fantastic.
And as Chair mentioned, you know, the second page, I think it's, I mean, this is the immediate neighbors. Look at all the second story they have. I mean, this is right in front of our face. And this one, I mean, I don't want to criticize anybody's work, but I want to be, as Brian mentioned, being, I mean, I'm trying to do the best I can do with this condition and circumstances. And what the client want, especially the financial situation.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Bernie.
So, did I just understand correctly that where this car is, this is going to be landscape?
Yes.
This is not going to be
No,
concrete?
no.
And what about this fence?
It's going to be removed.
So this is going to have a more open...
Correct.
What about the hedge?
The hedge would be, well, that would be, we're going to get landscape architect and just
Mhm.
work around to make it look nice and fine.
So this whole thing is going to be
Yeah,
landscape
that's under
except for in
construction.
front of
Correct.
the one-car garage?
Correct.
Correct.
That'll help.
So is anybody willing to make a motion? I think one of the things that we should do as a board is, even though, you know, there's parts of this project not every single person likes, there maybe are ways of enhancing what's here. For instance, there might be a really good high-quality garage door, because that's a really visible element.
Yeah, wood door, we have wood, just wood
Okay.
door, and all the windows is the aluminum clad, wood clad.
And I want to say, I really do appreciate that eyebrow trellis over the garage, too. That really will be nice with a vine over it. I think that'll help mitigate.
You should have showed us this first.
Popping up. Yeah, this is a good thing. This made me feel much better. Much better. You know, it works.
My only
So I
criticism, you
can...
should have brought that
Yeah, I
out
could
sooner.
have put some bougainvillea and
And this tree and all of that landscaping on that side shows proximity of where you can't really view the house based on where the elevations
No, I
show.
can't see it, really. Yeah.
So, is anybody ready to make a motion?
I just wanted to know if I could ask a question first.
Sure.
Okay. Does the house have a fireplace now?
No.
So you're adding the fireplace, so we should look at that and look at how tall that chimney is. And then,
If you don't like it, we can tell the owner, don't have a fireplace.
Yeah, hold on.
It's 2 feet above the roof.
decks, you know, with the basement and all the extra square footage, I want us to look at the number, the size of the outdoor living space.
That's huge. This is all backyard.
Does anybody have any issues with the size of the deck? It's on the back side,
Oh, the
private
deck?
side.
We got a permit already.
Hold on.
Oh,
Okay. So is anybody ready to make a motion?
I'd like to make a comment about the fireplace.
Okay.
Being that your client has a lot of allergies, is that a gas fireplace?
Yeah.
Well, the stack doesn't have to be that high.
I just put that for looks, to mimic the whole neighborhood. You know, instead of having pop out from the wall, the vent. You know, just made it.
It's really
more
sticking
traditional.
up there quite a ways.
Okay. If you don't, we can take it down. If you.
Yes, Fred.
Just to follow up on the comment. Given the context of where this house sits, I don't really have a problem with the height of the fireplace, given the amount of trees and everything else around here. I think that's, in my mind, not an issue, given the context of where this house is and vegetation and so forth. So I would like to attempt to make a motion. Since this is here for concept review.
Michelle, this is
correct?
ready for a motion, for approval, right?
Or is this ready for approval?
Project design.
Yeah.
It's ready for project design approval.
Correct.
If you're ready.
I'm not sure, in my own mind, this probably could go to consent from here, but maybe we don't want to do that.
It's your motion.
I'm not sure. So, let me just try this. Because I know, time is money, and we don't want to drag this thing out too long. But
I was hoping.
Hold on, let him get his motion out.
So I would move that the applicant be given the opportunity to come back to the full board after having taken the following studies. That he restudy the front window opening on the south elevation of the top floor, the second floor. That he show us a restudy of the trellis element over the garage door in relationship to the first floor line. That he gives some consideration to study of a different treatment to the roof gable end on the south elevation. That some consideration be made to study of the window opening and the roof line at the gable end on the north elevation. That a small study section be provided of the canopies over the two windows on the east elevation at the second floor. And when he comes back, if he's seeking final approval, that he go ahead and bring in his color board and all the other requirements for a final approval at that time.
Hold on. No comments at this point.
No,
you're done. You're done.
And including the proposed manufacture of the garage door.
The cut sheet.
And the cut sheets.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? I see you reaching for Mike.
I just didn't hear, was that just a continued indefinitely, or was
Continued indefinitely.
Okay.
So we have a first and a second. Is there additional comments on that motion?
Did we ask for a landscape plan where the part of the driveway is going to get dug up and replanted?
We did not.
Okay, well, I'd like to add that to the motion if that
It's up to you.
passes.
I think a little landscape plan is fine. I
And I'd also like to study the height of the chimney, because I think all this building on that teeny lot and then this towering chimney sticking up, even though they're all they're tall trees there, might be a lot of building.
Is that okay with the first
That's fine.
and the second?
Overly
Jim?
concerned.
You're okay with that? Okay. Any additional comments to the motion?
The other comment I'd like to make is the architect applicant has done a great job in terms of giving us a really clear picture of what the neighborhood looks like and all the adjacent properties and the site. This is what we should be seeing on every application.
I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree.
This makes it so easy to understand, even if you've gone out to this site, because this is a crowded little neighborhood, and the houses are all kind of stacked up against each other, which is just the circumstance of this neighborhood. This makes it really easy to understand what things look like. So I hope staff, if someone comes to the counter and asks, what's a good example, this is a good example.
Okay. Any additional comments to the motion? Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hold on. Opposed? Aye. And abstain? I opposed. What was the count? Did everybody, yes? And I'll tell you why I was opposed, but that's okay. I think we
I'll say aye.
You have a majority? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I was opposed because I think the project is pretty much ready right now.
You would send.
I would give it approval and send it to consent, and
That's why I made the motion, because I wasn't quite sure where everybody wanted to go.
But that's okay.
I think that
it's a modest project.
it's a modest project. I don't think when we come back, we'll have a big problem. Fine tune it and get it approved.
Well, under discussion, I mean, you're asking for some window resolutions, and they can be tweaked. There's no question it could be tweaked.
Absolutely.
But as far as the gable roofs and things, I think this 3D image really shows a lot, and I find that perfectly acceptable. So that's the only reason why I was opposed.
Is there... Can I...
Sure.
Fred, can you send that to consent?
No, I
You want to see it?
I think I'd like to see it.
Okay.
So that was indefinite or 2 weeks?
Well, if you can do it in 2 weeks.
I can do 2 weeks.
Okay. So I think you're close. I think you're close.
Let me just make a note for the applicant then. If you change it to a 2-week continuation, you need to be prepared to be back here and resubmit then. Can you make these changes in a week?
Oh, yeah, I can. Because I practice... Sure, because all the stuff Fred mentioned, I exercised already. The roof, that band, all that stuff. With the constraint of the project, I exercised all the stuff. If I knew that, I could bring the sketches, but I'll bring next.
So the other thing Fred mentioned was the color board, and I can't tell if there's a proposed color change from what's there to now.
On elevation, I called out.
Okay, but we need to actually sample.
to see it, okay.
So that'll be helpful to get.
That way
Sure.
it gets final.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
if the driveway's changing, or if you keep whatever's going in front of the new garage.
Sure.
So
No, it's a state.
at this point, we're gonna
Thank you.
we're gonna close down our agenda and say goodnight.
Thank you.
Are we adjourned yet?
We're going to keep some of this.
Yeah, one of them you
I
want to
had
keep?
a general question. We're seeing some of these concept review folks.
We better reopen the meeting if we're going to start talking.
Can we reopen just for a minute?